In the dim glow of a flickering lantern, a whisper echoes from ancient stone walls, pulling you into a web of secrets long buried. Welcome to Poirot and the Shadows of the Forgotten Crypt, where mystery uncoils like a serpent in the night. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let the suspense draw you in. If you're enjoying the story, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Chapter 1. The Invitation from the Past. Hercule Poirot adjusted his impeccable moustache in the mirror of his London apartment, the morning light filtering through the curtains like a reluctant confession. It was a crisp autumn day in 1935, and Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective, had just finished his breakfast of perfectly boiled eggs when a knock echoed at the door. His loyal companion, Captain Arthur Hastings, opened it to reveal a messenger boy clutching an envelope sealed with crimson wax. "For Monsieur Poirot," the boy stammered, tipping his cap before vanishing down the stairs. Poirot sliced open the envelope with a silver letter opener, his little grey cells already stirring with curiosity. The letter was from Lord Reginald Ashford, an old acquaintance from a previous case involving a stolen emerald necklace. "My dear Poirot," it read, "I implore you to join me at Ashford Manor in the countryside. A matter of grave importance has arisen. Shadows from a forgotten crypt haunt my family once more. Discretion is paramount. Arrive by train tomorrow. Yours in desperation, Ashford." Hastings peered over Poirot's shoulder, his eyebrows knitting together. "Sounds ominous, old chap. A crypt? Ghosts? Not your usual fare of poison and alibis." Poirot smiled faintly, folding the letter. "Ah, mon ami, the human mind creates shadows far darker than any spectre. We shall go. Pack your bags. Adventure calls." The train journey to the English countryside was uneventful, save for Poirot's meticulous observations of fellow passengers. A nervous young woman clutching a locket, an elderly gentleman dozing with a newspaper over his face, and a burly man in tweed who avoided eye contact. As the locomotive chugged through rolling hills dotted with sheep and ancient oaks, Poirot pondered the letter's cryptic tone. Ashford Manor, he recalled, was built on the ruins of a medieval abbey, its crypt said to hold relics from crusaders long dead. Legends whispered of curses and hidden treasures, but Poirot dismissed such nonsense. He believed in facts, not phantoms. Upon arrival, a chauffeured Rolls-Royce whisked them to the manor, a sprawling Gothic estate with ivy-clinging towers and gargoyles leering from the eaves. Lord Ashford greeted them at the grand entrance, his face pale and lined with worry, his once vibrant eyes shadowed like the crypt he mentioned. "Poirot, thank heavens you've come," he said, shaking hands firmly. "And Captain Hastings, good to see you again. Come inside. Tea is waiting, and so is the tale." In the opulent drawing room, warmed by a crackling fire, Ashford poured Earl Grey from a silver pot. Seated on plush armchairs, Poirot and Hastings listened as their host unfolded the mystery. "It began 2 weeks ago," Ashford explained, his voice low. "My late uncle Sir Edmund was obsessed with the family crypt beneath the manor. He claimed it held a secret artifact, a golden chalice from the Holy Land, said to grant eternal life or curse those who disturb it. Nonsense, I thought, until workers renovating the East Wing uncovered a hidden passage leading to the crypt." Ashford paused, sipping his tea shakily. "That night, strange things happened. Shadows moved where no light cast them. My wife, Lady Evelyn, heard whispers calling her name. Then, our butler, Mr. Graves, vanished without a trace. We found his spectacles shattered at the crypt's entrance, but no body. The police dismissed it as an accident, but I know better. Something evil stirs down there." Poirot leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Tell me, Lord Ashford, who else resides here?" "Suspects, perhaps?" Ashford nodded. "My wife, Evelyn, elegant but fragile after a recent illness. My nephew, Victor, a gambler down on his luck, visiting from London. Our archaeologist guest, Dr. Helena Thorne, invited to study the crypt's artifacts. And the staff, the maid, Clara, young and superstitious, the gardener, old Mr. Wilkins, who's been here forever, and now, without graves, were short-handed. Hastings interjected. Sounds like a classic setup for foul play. Inheritance? Jealousy? Poirot hushed him gently. Patience, Hastings. We must inspect this crypt ourselves. But first, practical tips for unravelling such enigmas. Always start with the scene of the disappearance. Look for footprints, disturbed dust, unusual odours. The little details betray the truth. As evening fell, Poirot insisted on a tour. Ashford led them through echoing halls adorned with ancestral portraits, their eyes seeming to follow the group. Down a spiral staircase, the air grew chill and musty, the scent of earth and decay thickening. At the crypt's iron gate, rusted but recently oiled, Poirot knelt with a magnifying glass. "See here," he said, pointing to faint scratches on the lock. "Not forced, but tampered with. And this powder, chalk, or something more sinister. Inside, torchlight revealed stone sarcophagi etched with faded Latin inscriptions, cobwebs draping like veils. In the centre stood a pedestal, empty, save for a faint outline where the chalice might have rested. Shadows danced as the flames flickered, and for a moment even Poirot felt a chill. "Mon Dieu," he murmured. "The shadows are not mere illusions. They hide motives." Lady Evelyn joined them, her silk gown rustling like whispers. "It's cursed, I tell you," she said, her voice trembling. "Edmund disturbed it years ago, and now it's claiming us one by one." Victor, lurking in the doorway, scoffed. "Auntie, it's probably just rats and imagination." Uncle's tales were poppycock. Dr. Thorne, adjusting her spectacles, added, "Scientifically, crypts can harbour gases that cause hallucinations. But those scratches... intriguing." Poirot gathered them all. "We shall dine together tonight. Observation is key. Watch expressions, listen to slips of the tongue. A practical tip. In mysteries, the guilty often overcompensate with alibis or deflection." Dinner was tense, served in the grand hall under a chandelier that cast elongated shadows. Conversations danced around the disappearance. Victor boasted of his London exploits. Evelyn picked at her food. Dr. Thorne discussed ancient rituals, and Wilkins grumbled about unnatural goings-on. As the clock struck midnight, a scream pierced the night from the crypt. Rushing down, they found Clara the maid fainted at the entrance, a shadowy figure fleeing into the darkness. Poirot revived her with smelling salts. "I saw it," she gasped. "A ghost in black robes whispering about the chalice." Hastings shivered. "Good Lord, Poirot, what now?" The detective straightened. "Now we dig deeper. Motives lurk in the past, and dawn will bring clarity." As the group retired uneasily, Poirot confided to Hastings, "This is no supernatural affair, mon ami. Human greed casts the longest shadows. With the first threads of the mystery unravelling, the night held its breath, setting the stage for revelations in the manor's hidden corners." Chapter 2. Whispers in the dark. The morning sun barely pierced the heavy fog cloaking Ashford Manor, casting the estate in a ghostly haze. Hercule Poirot stood at the window of his guest room, sipping coffee and studying the grounds below. The manicured lawns stretched toward a dense copse of trees, where the gardener, Wilkins, was already at work, his silhouette hunched over a rosebush. Poirot's sharp eyes caught a glint of metal near the tree line, something out of place. He set down his cup and turned to Hastings, who was polishing his shoes with military precision. "Mon ami, we begin the day with a walk. The outdoors may speak what the crypt conceals." They descended to the gardens, the air damp and thick with the scent of wet earth. Wilkins, grizzled and weather-worn, paused his pruning to nod curtly. "Morning, sirs. Mind the paths, slippery after last night's rain." Poirot thanked him, but his attention was drawn to the glint he'd seen earlier. Kneeling near a gnarled oak, he uncovered a small silver cigarette case half buried in the mud, its surface engraved with the initials V.A. Victor Ashford. Curieux, Poirot murmured, slipping it into his pocket. Our gambling nephew is careless with his possessions. Back inside, the breakfast room buzzed with tension. Lady Evelyn sat pale and silent, her teacup trembling in her hands. Victor slouched in his chair, buttering toast with forced nonchalance, while Dr. Helena Thorne scribbled notes in a leather-bound journal, her eyes darting to the others. Lord Ashford, at the head of the table, cleared his throat. Poirot, any progress? That scream last night. Clara's still shaken. The maid, serving juice, flinched at her name, nearly spilling the pitcher. Poirot spread his napkin with deliberate care. Progress, Lord Ashford, is like assembling a mosaic. Each piece must find its place. Tell me, has anyone visited the crypt since last night? Heads shook, but Victor's eyes lingered on his plate a moment too long. Poirot noted it, his mind cataloguing the subtle tells. Very well, he continued. Today, I shall interview each of you privately. Truth often hides behind closed doors. The first to meet Poirot in the Manor's oak-panelled study was Dr. Thorne. Her auburn hair was pinned tightly, and her scholarly demeanour radiated confidence, yet her fingers twisted a gold ring nervously. I'm here for the crypt's artefacts, she said. Lord Ashford invited me after the passage was uncovered. I've studied medieval relics for years, Crusader history mostly. The chalice is a myth, of course, but the crypt's carvings are invaluable. Poirot tilted his head. And yet you were in the crypt when Clara screamed. Why? Thorne hesitated. I was sketching inscriptions by torchlight. I heard the scream and ran to help. Her story was plausible, but her quick glance toward the window betrayed unease. Next came Clara, her youthful face drawn with fear. She perched on the edge of a chair, wringing her apron. I swear, monsieur, it was no rat or shadow. That figure in black, it moved like a man, but its voice was wrong. It said, "The chalice is mine." I fainted dead away. Poirot leaned forward, his voice gentle. Did you see its face, mademoiselle? She shook her head, tears welling. No, just robes and darkness. I never want to go near that crypt again. Victor's interview was less cooperative. Sprawled in the chair, he lit a cigarette, the match flaring briefly. Look, Poirot, I don't know what Clara saw, but I was in my room, asleep. This whole ghost nonsense is just Evelyn's nerves and old stories getting out of hand. Poirot produced the cigarette case, watching Victor's reaction. The young man's smirk faltered. Must have dropped it during a walk, he muttered. I roam the grounds when I can't sleep. Poirot smiled thinly. Of course, insomnia is a great motivator. Lady Evelyn's interview was brief but telling. Her delicate frame seemed to shrink under Poirot's gaze. I hear it at night, she whispered. Whispers from the crypt, calling my name. Edmund, my late brother-in-law, used to speak of a guardian spirit tied to the chalice. I thought it was madness. But now... Her voice trailed off, and she clutched a lace handkerchief. Poirot patted her hand. Courage, madame. We shall find the truth. As the day wore on, Poirot and Hastings retraced their steps to the crypt, this time alone. The iron gate creaked as they entered, the air colder than before. Poirot's torch swept over the stone walls, pausing on a faint carving, a chalice encircled by thorns. Hastings, observe, he said, tracing the etching. This symbol is recent, not medieval. Someone has been marking their territory. Near the pedestal, he found a single black thread caught on a jagged stone. From a robe, perhaps, Hastings mused. Poirot nodded. Or a costume designed to frighten. Dinner that evening was a quiet affair, the clink of cutlery loud against the silence. Poirot watched the group, noting how Victor avoided Dr. Thorne's gaze, and how Wilkins, serving as temporary butler, lingered near the door. As dessert was cleared, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. The group rushed to the source, a shattered vase in the library, its fragments scattered across a Persian rug. Beside it lay a crumpled note, scrawled in black ink. Leave the crypt or join the shadows. Hastings gasped. Good heavens, Poirot, this is getting dangerous. Poirot picked up the note, his expression unreadable. Danger, mon ami, is a sign we are close. Someone wishes to scare us away, but Hercule Poirot does not scare easily. As the household retired, whispers of fear lingered in the air, and the crypt's secrets seemed to pulse beneath the manor. The next dawn promised more clues, but for now the shadows held their tongue. Chapter 3. The Hidden Door. The mist had lifted by morning, leaving Ashford Manor bathed in pale sunlight that did little to warm the chill in Hercule Poirot's bones. He stood in the library, where the shattered vase still lay in pieces, its shards glinting like broken promises. Captain Hastings paced nearby, his boots scuffing the polished floor. That note last night, Poirot. It's a threat, plain and simple. Someone's playing a dangerous game. Poirot held the crumpled paper to the light, his keen eyes tracing the jagged handwriting. We, Hastings, but games have rules and we shall learn them. This note is bold, but its writer is careless. Ink smudges betray a trembling hand. Poirot's first task was to examine the library itself, a cavernous room lined with leather-bound books and portraits of stern Ashfords glaring from gilded frames. He ran his fingers along the shelves, pausing at a section of dusty tomes on medieval history. One book, a heavy volume on Crusader relics, felt oddly light. With a gentle tug, he pulled it forward, and a soft click echoed. A panel in the wall slid open, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. Hastings gasped. Good Lord, a secret passage! Right out of a penny dreadful. They lit a lantern and ventured down, the steps slick with damp. The air grew heavy, carrying a faint metallic tang. At the bottom, the passage widened into a small chamber, its walls etched with faded runes. In the centre stood a wooden chest, its lid ajar, revealing a bundle of yellowed letters tied with twine. Poirot knelt, carefully untying the bundle. The letters were from Sir Edmund Ashford, dated decades earlier, addressed to an unknown correspondent. My search for the chalice consumes me, one read. The crypt's guardian watches, but I am close. If I perish, protect my legacy. Poirot's brow furrowed. Sir Edmund believed in this guardian. Perhaps someone else does too. Returning upstairs, Poirot summoned the household to the drawing room. Lord Ashford looked haggard, his tie askew. A secret passage? In my own home? He exclaimed. Dr. Helena Thorne's eyes lit up with scholarly intrigue. It could connect to the crypt. Medieval abbeys often had hidden routes for monks. Victor, lounging by the fireplace, snorted. More old nonsense. Probably just a smuggler's hideout. Lady Evelyn clutched her shawl, whispering, It's the Guardian's path. Edmund warned us. Poirot held up a hand for silence. We must explore this passage further. But first, I require candour. Who among you has entered the library at night? Eyes darted, but no one spoke. Clara, pouring tea, blushed deeply, and Wilkins, polishing a candelabra, froze momentarily. Poirot noted both reactions but pressed no further. Very well. Hastings and I shall investigate the passage's end. Lord Ashford, ensure no one follows. The passage, they discovered, wound beneath the manor, its walls damp and moss-slicked. After several twists, it opened into the crypt, emerging behind a sarcophagus Poirot hadn't noticed before. The lid was slightly askew, and inside lay not a body, but a bundle of black cloth. Robes, folded neatly, with a faint chalky residue clinging to the fabric. Hastings shivered. The ghost's robes! Clara wasn't imagining things. Poirot sniffed the cloth, detecting a trace of lavender. Not a ghost, mon ami, but a costume. And this lavender, it is familiar, non? Back in the manor, Poirot requested a private word with Wilkins in the garden shed. The old gardener's hands trembled as he set down his shears. I've done nothing wrong, sir, he insisted. Been loyal to the Ashfords for 40 years. Poirot's voice was calm but firm. Then explain the lavender on your coat, monsieur. It matches the scent in the crypt. Wilkins paled. I burn lavender to keep moths from my clothes. Everyone here does. Poirot nodded, unconvinced but dismissing him for now. At luncheon, tension crackled like static. Victor argued loudly with Dr. Thorne over the chalice's value, insisting it was a myth worth no one's time. Thorne countered sharply, citing historical texts that mentioned a relic matching its description. Lady Evelyn excused herself early, claiming a headache, while Clara dropped a plate, her nerves frayed. Poirot observed silently, his mind piecing together fragments. The cigarette case, the letters, the robes, the lavender. As afternoon faded, Poirot and Hastings returned to the secret chamber, this time noticing a faint scratch on the chest's lock, similar to the crypt's gate. Another lock tampered with, Poirot said. Someone sought Sir Edmund's secrets recently. Hastings frowned. But who? Victor's got motive, debts to pay. Thorne's obsessed with relics. Even Evelyn seems half mad with fear. Poirot tapped his temple. All are possible, but we lack the why. Tonight, we watch. Under the guise of retiring early, Poirot and Hastings hid in the library, concealed behind a heavy curtain. Hours passed. The manor silent, save for the tick of a grandfather clock. Then a soft creak, the secret panel opened. A figure in a hooded cloak slipped through, moving swiftly toward the bookshelves. Poirot signaled Hastings to stay still. The figure paused, as if sensing a presence, then vanished back into the passage as footsteps approached from the hall. Emerging, Poirot found a single clue left behind. A pearl earring, delicate and costly. Mon Dieu, he murmured, holding it to the light. The net tightens, Hastings. Tomorrow we confront the shadows head on. The manor's secrets were unraveling, each clue a step closer to the truth, but the crypt's whispers grew louder, daring Poirot to follow. Chapter 4. The earring's secret dawn broke over Ashford Manor, painting the sky in streaks of gold that did little to dispel the unease lingering in its halls. Hercule Poirot sat at a small writing desk in his guest room, the pearl earring from the library glinting under his magnifying glass. Its intricate silver settings suggested wealth, but a faint scratch marred its surface, hinting at carelessness or haste. Captain Hastings, sipping tea by the window, glanced over. "Whose is it, Poirot? Evelyn's? Thorne's? Not Clara's, surely. She couldn't afford such a thing." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Patience, mon ami. An earring is not just jewellery. It is a signature. We shall see who claims it." Downstairs, the breakfast table was subdued, the clink of porcelain the only sound breaking the silence. Lord Ashford read his newspaper, his face etched with worry. Lady Evelyn, her eyes red-rimmed, toyed with a slice of toast. Victor lit a cigarette, ignoring Dr. Thorne's pointed cough, while Clara moved silently, refilling coffee pots. Poirot, ever observant, slipped the earring from his pocket and placed it casually on the table. "A curious find from the library last night," he said lightly. "Does it belong to anyone here?" A sharp intake of breath. Lady Evelyn's hand flew to her ear, then froze. "It's mine," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I must have lost it yesterday." Victor raised an eyebrow, smirking. "In the library, Aunt Evelyn. Bit late for reading, isn't it?" Dr. Thorne's gaze sharpened, but she said nothing. Poirot retrieved the earring, his smile polite but probing. "No matter, madame. It is returned. But perhaps you can tell me when you last visited the library." Evelyn's composure cracked, her hands twisting her napkin. "I don't recall. I wander sometimes when I can't sleep." Lord Ashford touched her arm gently. "She's been unwell, Poirot. The strain of recent events." Poirot nodded, but his mind catalogued her hesitation. The earring placed her in the library, but was she the cloaked figure? After breakfast, Poirot requested a tour of Lady Evelyn's quarters, citing a need to understand the manor's layout. Ashford agreed, leading them to a lavish suite adorned with silk drapes and family heirlooms. On Evelyn's dressing table sat a matching pearl earring, confirming her claim, but Poirot's attention snagged on a small vial of lavender oil beside her perfume bottles. "For my nerves," Evelyn explained, catching his gaze. It helps me sleep. Poirot's moustache twitched. A most soothing scent, madame. Leaving the suite, Poirot and Hastings ventured to the manor's attic, a dusty maze of trunks and forgotten furniture. "Why here, Poirot?" Hastings asked, brushing cobwebs from his jacket. "The earring points to Evelyn, doesn't it?" Poirot climbed a creaky ladder to a high shelf. "Perhaps, but the cloaked figure moved with agility. Evelyn is frail. We seek more pieces of the puzzle." Among the attic's relics, he found a tattered journal, its pages filled with Sir Edmund's sketches of the crypt, including a detailed map of the secret passage. One entry read, "The chalice's guardian is no myth. I have seen its shadow." The journal's weight felt heavy in Poirot's hands. Sir Edmund was no fool, he said. He documented a real threat, or someone he believed was real. Hastings frowned. "You think someone's using his obsession to scare the household?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Or to hide something far more tangible." That afternoon, Poirot gathered the household in the drawing room for what he called a small experiment. He produced a black cloak, borrowed from the manor's theatrical props, and draped it over a chair. "Last night, a figure in such a cloak fled the library. Let us test memory. Who here has seen this cloak before?" Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "It's like the one I saw in the crypt." Victor rolled his eyes. "It's just an old costume. Could belong to anyone." Dr. Thorne adjusted her spectacles. "The manor's full of relics. Perhaps it's from a past masquerade." Poirot watched their reactions closely, noting Wilkins's stiff posture and Evelyn's averted gaze. He then held up the journal. "Sir Edmund wrote of a guardian. Someone here knows more than they say. I invite confessions, privately, if preferred." No one spoke, but the air grew thick with suspicion. As evening approached, Poirot and Hastings revisited the crypt, armed with Sir Edmund's map. The passage's twists were clearer now, revealing a second exit near the gardener's shed. Outside, they found fresh footprints in the mud, leading to a locked shed door. Poirot picked the lock with a hairpin, revealing gardening tools, and a hidden compartment containing a small iron key, etched with a thorn pattern matching the crypt's carving. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured. "This key unlocks more than doors." Dinner was interrupted by a sudden power outage, plunging the manor into darkness. Candles were lit, casting flickering shadows that danced like spectres. As the group murmured nervously, a low moan echoed from the direction of the crypt. Victor cursed, spilling his wine, while Clara clung to Dr. Thorne. Poirot stood, his voice steady. "Remain calm. Hastings with me." They hurried to the crypt, finding the iron gate ajar and a single candle burning on the pedestal, its wax dripping like blood. "Whoever plays these games grows bold," Poirot said, pocketing the key. "But boldness breeds mistakes." As they returned to the dining hall, the lights flickered back on, revealing the household's strained faces. The night closed in, and the manor's secrets seemed to tighten their grip, daring Poirot to unravel them before the shadows struck again. Chapter 5. The Key to the Past. The flickering candlelight in Ashford Manor's dining hall cast long shadows as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings returned from the crypt. The small iron key, with its thorn pattern tucked safely in Poirot's waistcoat pocket. The household sat in uneasy silence, their faces pale under the restored electric lights. Lord Ashford's knuckles whitened around his wine glass. "What was that moan, Poirot? Another trick?" Poirot's moustache curved slightly. "A trick, perhaps, but one with purpose. Someone wishes to keep us from the truth. We shall not oblige them." Morning brought a restless energy to the manor. Poirot, ever methodical, began the day by examining the key under a magnifying glass in the quiet of the library. Its craftsmanship was old, possibly medieval, with a faint inscription in Latin, Custodia Aeterna, Eternal Guardian. Hastings, peering over his shoulder, scratched his head. "Sounds like something from Sir Edmund's tales. Does it open the crypt?" Poirot shook his head. "Non, mon ami. The crypt's gate uses no such key. This unlocked something else, perhaps a secret Sir Edmund guarded. Poirot decided to question Lord Ashford about his late uncle's possessions. They found him in his study, sorting through old ledgers. Ashford's eyes were bloodshot, his hands unsteady. Edmund was eccentric, he admitted, setting aside a ledger. He collected relics, keys, medallions, manuscripts, all tied to his obsession with the chalice. Most are stored in the East Wing's archive room. Poirot's interest piqued. Then we shall visit this archive, monsieur. Secrets hide in plain sight. The archive room was a cluttered chamber, its shelves sagging under dusty boxes and leather folios. Poirot and Hastings sifted through Sir Edmund's collection, cracked pottery, faded maps, and a brass medallion etched with the same thorn pattern as the key. Poirot tested the key in every lock they found. A trunk, a cabinet, a decorative box, but none fit. Then, hidden behind a stack of scrolls, he spotted a small iron safe embedded in the wall, its lock bearing the thorn emblem. The key turned with a satisfying click. Inside the safe lay a single parchment, its edges brittle. It was a letter from Sir Edmund, dated a month before his death. "To my heir," it began, "the chalice is real, hidden where shadows meet stone. The guardian is not myth but man, sworn to protect it. Trust no one, not even family." Hastings whistled. "Blimey, Poirot, he sounds paranoid. A human guardian? That could be anyone here." Poirot folded the letter carefully. "Or someone long gone, whose role another has taken." At midday, Poirot gathered the household in the conservatory, its glass walls framing the grey sky. He held up the parchment. Sir Edmund left a warning. "The chalice is no mere legend, and its guardian walks among us. Or did. Who here knows of this safe?" Dr. Helena Thorne's jaw tightened, her scholarly composure slipping. "I studied Edmund's notes, but I never saw a safe. He was secretive, even with me." Victor scoffed, lighting a cigarette. "Uncle was mad as a hatter, chasing fairy tales." Lady Evelyn, clutching a rosary, murmured, "He always said the crypt would claim us." Clara, clearing teacups, hesitated near the door. Poirot's sharp gaze caught her. "Mademoiselle Clara, you seem troubled. Have you seen this safe?" She shook her head, but her hands trembled, knocking a saucer to the floor. Wilkins, nearby, muttered about clumsy maids, but his eyes darted to the exit. Poirot filed away their reactions, his mind spinning. That afternoon, Poirot and Hastings explored the East Wing, where renovations had uncovered the crypt's passage. Amid scaffolding and plaster dust, they found a loose floorboard concealing a small leather pouch. Inside was a single gold coin, stamped with a chalice and thorns. "Another piece of Sir Edmund's puzzle," Poirot said, turning the coin in his gloved hand. "This was hidden recently. See the fresh scratches on the wood." Hastings frowned. "Someone's still hunting the chalice, aren't they?" As dusk fell, Poirot requested a private word with Dr. Thorne in the archive room. She stood by a window, her face lit by fading light. You suspect me, don't you?" she said, her voice sharp. "I'm an archaeologist, not a thief. I want the chalice for history, not profit." Poirot's tone was calm. "Yet you knew of Edmund's notes. Did you know of the safe?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I found it weeks ago but couldn't open it. I told no one." Her candour seemed genuine, but Poirot reserved judgment. Dinner was a strained affair, interrupted by a sudden gust rattling the windows. As the group cleared the table, a loud thud echoed from the East Wing. Poirot led the charge, finding a toppled ladder in the renovation area, its base smeared with wet mud. Nearby, a fresh footprint, small like a woman's, led toward the crypt's passage. "Someone was here," Poirot said, his voice low, "and they fled in haste." As the household retired, Poirot confided to Hastings by the fireplace. "The chalice is near, mon ami, and so is its guardian. Tomorrow we set a trap." The manor's shadows deepened, each creak and whisper a challenge to Poirot's relentless pursuit of the truth. Chapter 6. The trap is set. The morning air in Ashford Manor carried a sharpness that mirrored the tension among its occupants. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, his polished shoes gleaming against the marble floor, as he outlined his plan to Captain Hastings. "Tonight, mon ami, we shall lure the Guardian from the shadows," he said, his voice low but firm. "The footprint and the coin suggest someone is desperate to protect or possess the chalice. We must provoke them." Hastings, adjusting his tie, looked skeptical. "A trap in this place? You'll have us chasing ghosts all night." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Not ghosts, Hastings. Humans leave footprints." Poirot began the day by requesting a detailed map of the manor's grounds from Lord Ashford. The map, yellowed and creased, revealed an old well near the copse of trees where Poirot had found Victor's cigarette case. "Curieux," Poirot murmured, tracing a faint line marked "Underground Stream." He suspected it connected to the crypt's passage. With Hastings in tow, he inspected the well, its stone rim crumbling under ivy. A rusted iron grate covered its mouth, but fresh scratches suggested recent tampering. "Someone has been here," Poirot said, pointing to a smudge of chalky residue on the grate, matching the crypt's powder. Back at the manor, Poirot gathered the household in the drawing room, his demeanour calm but commanding. "Mes amis, tonight we shall hold a vigil in the crypt. I believe the chalice is near, and its guardian will act to protect it. All of you must attend, no exceptions." Lady Evelyn's face paled, her rosary beads clicking faster. Victor stubbed out his cigarette, muttering, "Waste of time." Dr. Helena Thorne adjusted her spectacles, her curiosity evident. "A bold move, Monsieur Poirot. I'll bring my notebook." Clara and Wilkins exchanged uneasy glances, but neither protested. To prepare, Poirot and Hastings rigged the crypt with subtle markers. A thin thread stretched across the passage entrance, a dusting of talc on the pedestal to catch fingerprints, and a small bell hidden near the sarcophagus to signal movement. "If the Guardian moves, we will know," Poirot said, testing the bell's faint chime. Hastings, carrying a torch, looked uneasy. "What if it's not one of them? What if it's something else?" Poirot patted his arm. "The only spirits here are those of greed and fear, mon ami." As evening fell, the household assembled in the crypt, their faces lit by flickering lanterns. The air was thick with damp and dread. Poirot positioned himself near the pedestal, his eyes scanning the group. Lord Ashford stood rigid, clutching Evelyn's hand. Victor leaned against a sarcophagus, feigning boredom. Dr. Thorne sketched the carvings, her pencil scratching softly. Clara huddled near the gate, while Wilkins lingered in the shadows, his face unreadable. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the drip of water somewhere deep in the passage. Then a faint snap, the thread at the entrance broke. Poirot's hand tightened on his cane, but he signalled the group to remain still. A shadow moved along the wall, too swift to identify, and the bell chimed softly. Hastings gripped his torch, whispering, "There!" But the figure vanished into the passage, leaving only a faint whiff of lavender in the air. Poirot sprang into action, leading the group to the passage's second exit near the gardener's shed. The grate was ajar, and muddy footprints, small, like the one in the east wing, led toward the well. By lantern light, Poirot peered into its depths, spotting a glint of metal far below. "The chalice, perhaps," he said, "or a decoy." He turned to the group, their faces a mix of fear and suspicion. "Someone among us moved tonight. Who opened the well?" Victor laughed harshly. "This is absurd. I was right here." Evelyn's voice trembled. "I saw nothing, I swear." Dr. Thorne's eyes narrowed, but she remained silent. Clara, near tears, shook her head, while Wilkins muttered about checking the grounds. Poirot's gaze lingered on each, his mind racing. "No matter," he said. "The Guardian has shown their hand. Tomorrow, we retrieve what lies in the well." As the group dispersed, Poirot confided to Hastings in the moonlit garden. "The lavender, the footprints, the key, they point to one truth, but it is not yet clear. The Guardian is clever, but their haste betrays them." Hastings shivered, glancing at the well. "You're sure it's not supernatural, Poirot?" The detective's smile was grim. The only curse here is human ambition. The night settled over the manor, the well's dark mouth holding its secrets, as Poirot's trap tightened around the unseen guardian. Chapter 7. The Well of Secrets. The dawn light filtered through the manor's tall windows, casting a pale glow over the weary household. Hercule Poirot stood by the ancient well in the garden, its rusted grate now fully removed, revealing a dark shaft that seemed to swallow the morning sun. Captain Hastings, holding a coil of rope, looked uneasy. "You're not seriously going down there, Poirot. It's a death trap." Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Not I, mon ami. We shall enlist stronger arms, but first we must ensure the Guardian does not interfere." Poirot had summoned Wilkins, the gardener, to assist with retrieving whatever lay at the well's bottom. The old man arrived, his face etched with reluctance, carrying a sturdy ladder. "Never liked this well," Wilkins muttered, securing the ladder against the stone rim. "Folks say it's cursed, same as the crypt." Poirot's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, merely gesturing for Wilkins to lower the ladder. Hastings tied the rope around his own waist, volunteering to descend. "If there's a chalice down there, I'll find it," he said, his voice steadier than his trembling hands. As Hastings descended, the household gathered nearby, their breath visible in the chilly air. Lady Evelyn clutched her shawl, her eyes darting nervously. Victor smoked a cigarette, his nonchalance strained. Dr. Helena Thorne stood close to the well, her notebook open, sketching the scene. Clara lingered at the edge of the group, her face pale. Lord Ashford, gripping a walking stick, murmured, "Be careful, Captain. We've lost enough to this madness." The rope tautened as Hastings reached the well's bottom, his torchlight flickering up the shaft. "It's damp down here," he called, his voice echoing. "Wait, there's something." A metal box wedged in the stones. Poirot leaned over the rim, his voice sharp. "Describe it, Hastings." The reply came quickly. "Small iron with a thorn pattern. Locked tight." Poirot's gaze swept the group, catching a fleeting look of alarm on Dr. Thorne's face. "Bring it up, mon ami," he instructed. Hastings emerged, muddy but triumphant, clutching a rusted iron box no larger than a cigar case. The thorn emblem matched the key Poirot had found, and with a careful turn, the lock clicked open. Inside lay a single object. A gold medallion, not the chalice, engraved with a chalice encircled by thorns and the words Fidelis Custos, faithful guardian. A folded note accompanied it, in Sir Edmund's hand. "The chalice rests where faith meets stone." "The Guardian knows." Dr. Thorne stepped forward, her voice eager. "That's a Crusader seal. It confirms the chalice's existence." Victor snorted, tossing his cigarette into the grass. "Another trinket? This is a wild goose chase." Evelyn's voice trembled. "It's a sign. The Guardian is watching." Poirot silenced them with a raised hand. "This medallion is a clue, not the prize. Someone placed it here recently. The box is free of rust inside." Poirot decided to confront the household directly. In the drawing room, he placed the medallion on a table, its gold catching the firelight. "This was hidden to be found," he said. "The Guardian wishes to control the hunt for the chalice. Who among you knows this well's secret?" Silence fell, broken only by Clara's stifled sob. Wilkins shifted uncomfortably, his hands stained with earth. Thorne's fingers tightened on her notebook, while Victor's smirk faded. Evelyn stared at the medallion, her lips moving silently, seeking more answers. Poirot and Hastings returned to the crypt, where the talc on the pedestal revealed fresh fingerprints. Small, delicate, not matching Hastings' or Poirot's. A woman's, perhaps, Poirot mused, dusting them for later comparison. He then examined the sarcophagus nearest the passage's exit, noticing a faint seam in its base. With effort, they slid the stone aside, revealing a hollow compartment. Inside was a tattered black glove, its leather worn but scented faintly with lavender. Hastings gasped. "The Guardian's glove!" "We're close, Poirot." Back upstairs, Poirot requested a private word with Clara in the kitchen. Her eyes were red, her apron twisted in her hands. "I know nothing, sir," she insisted. "I've never been near that well." Poirot's voice was gentle but firm. "Yet you tremble, mademoiselle. The crypt frightens you, but why?" She bit her lip. "It's the whispers. They're louder now, saying my name. I think it's angry." Poirot patted her shoulder. "Fear not. The truth will silence the whispers." As night fell, the manor seemed to hold its breath. Poirot confided to Hastings in their shared study, the medallion gleaming on the desk. "The Guardian is desperate, Hastings. The medallion was meant to mislead, but it reveals their presence. Tomorrow we force their hand." A sudden gust rattled the windows, and a distant thud echoed from the crypt. The game was escalating, and the shadows were closing in. Chapter 8. The Guardian's Gambit. The morning mist clung to Ashford Manor like a shroud, wrapping the estate in a damp silence that amplified every creak and whisper. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, his polished cane tapping rhythmically against the marble floor as he reviewed his notes. The gold medallion from the well, the black glove scented with lavender, the fingerprints on the pedestal, all pointed to a living guardian orchestrating a dangerous charade. Captain Hastings, nursing a cup of strong coffee, paced nearby, his face etched with worry. "That thud last night, Poirot. It came from the crypt again. Whoever's behind this isn't slowing down." Poirot's eyes gleamed with resolve. "Non, mon ami. They are cornered, and like a cornered fox, they will strike. Today, we force the Guardian to reveal themselves." Poirot began by revisiting the crypt, this time with a small leather case of tools. A magnifying glass, tweezers, and a vial for collecting evidence. The air was colder than ever, the damp stone walls glistening under his torch's beam. He knelt by the sarcophagus where they'd found the glove, examining the hollow compartment more closely. A faint scratch mark on the inner edge caught his eye, not from a tool, but from a ring. Gold, judging by the metallic residue. "Someone with a ring opened this," he told Hastings, who was nervously scanning the shadows. "And they were careless in their haste." Their next stop was the manor's chapel, a small, neglected room off the east wing, its stained glass windows depicting Crusader knights. Sir Edmund's journal had mentioned faith meets stone, and Poirot suspected the chapel held answers. The pews were dusty, the air heavy with the scent of old wax. At the altar, a stone slab bore a faint carving of a chalice, barely visible under years of grime. Poirot ran his gloved fingers over it, feeling a slight give. With Hastings' help, he pressed the slab, and a low grinding sound revealed a hidden niche beneath the altar. Inside was a small leather pouch containing a single ruby, its deep red catching the light like a drop of blood. Hastings whistled softly. "Part of the chalice's treasure, you think?" Poirot shook his head. "A breadcrumb, mon ami. The Guardian leaves clues to distract us from the true prize. But this ruby confirms the chapel's importance." He pocketed the gem, noting its weight, too light for a stone of its size. "A fake, perhaps," he murmured, his mind racing. Meant to mislead." At midday, Poirot called the household to the chapel, a setting he chose deliberately to unsettle the guilty. The group stood among the pews, their faces a mix of curiosity and dread. Lord Ashford's shoulders slumped, his exhaustion evident. Lady Evelyn clutched her rosary, her eyes fixed on the altar. Victor lounged against a pillar, his cigarette smoke curling upward. Dr. Helena Thorne clutched her notebook, her gaze flickering to the chalice carving. Clara, standing near the door, looked ready to bolt, while Wilkins, clutching a broom, hovered at the edge of the group. Poirot held up the ruby, letting it catch the stained glass light. "This was hidden here," he said, his voice echoing in the vaulted space. "A clue to the chalice or a deception? Someone among you knows." Evelyn gasped, her hand flying to her throat. "It's cursed! Edmund said the chalice's treasures bring doom." Victor rolled his eyes. "It's just a shiny rock. You're wasting our time, Poirot." Thorn stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. That ruby matches descriptions of Crusader relics. Where did you find it? Poirot smiled thinly. Patience, Doctor. First, I must ask, whose ring scratched the sarcophagus? He produced a sketch of the mark, watching their reactions. Thorn's hand twitched toward her gold ring, but she quickly tucked it into her sleeve. Evelyn's fingers, bare save for her wedding band, trembled. Clara's hands were ringless, but she bit her lip, her eyes darting to Wilkins. The gardener's knuckles whitened on his broom, a plain silver band glinting on his finger. Poirot noted each tell, but pressed no further. Tonight, he announced, we return to the crypt. I shall reveal the Guardian's identity. Be prepared. As the group dispersed, Poirot and Hastings searched Victor's room, suspecting his cavalier attitude masked deeper involvement. Among his belongings, scattered playing cards and empty whiskey bottles, they found a crumpled letter from a London creditor demanding payment for gambling debts. Motive, Hastings said, holding it up. He needs the chalice's value. Poirot nodded. Oui, but Victor is too brash for the Guardian's subtlety. Still, we watch him. That evening, the crypt was a theatre of shadows, lit by lanterns hung from iron hooks. Poirot positioned the household strategically. Ashford and Evelyn near the pedestal, Victor and Thorn by the sarcophagus, Clara and Wilkins at the gate. He stood at the centre, holding the medallion and ruby. The Guardian believes they control this game, he said, his voice steady. But they have left too many traces. Lavender, fingerprints, a fake ruby. I propose a test. Each of you, touch this pedestal. Let us see whose hand matches the prints. One by one they complied, their faces tense. As Thorn reached forward, a sudden clatter echoed from the passage, a dropped lantern, its flame snuffed out. In the chaos, a figure darted toward the exit, cloak billowing. Hastings lunged, grabbing a scrap of fabric, a black scarf scented with lavender. Poirot's voice cut through the dark. Enough! The Guardian flees, but they cannot hide. The chase led to the chapel, where the figure vanished behind the altar. Poirot and Hastings found the niche open, a hidden ladder descending into darkness. Another passage, Poirot said, his torch revealing damp stone steps. The Guardian's lair is near. As they prepared to descend, a faint scream echoed from below, chilling the air. Hurry, Hastings, Poirot urged. The truth awaits, but so does danger. The manor's secrets pulsed like a heartbeat, each step downward, pulling Poirot closer to the Guardian's final move. Chapter 9. The Lair Beneath. The scream still echoed in Hercule Poirot's ears as he descended the narrow stone ladder beneath the chapel's altar, his torch casting jagged shadows on the damp walls. Captain Hastings followed close behind, his breath ragged in the stifling air. The passage was tighter than the crypt's, its rough-hewn stones scraping their shoulders as they moved deeper into the manor's underbelly. This must lead to the Guardian's hiding place, Hastings whispered, gripping the black scarf they'd torn from the fleeing figure. Poirot's voice was steady, though his pulse quickened. Oui, mon ami. The scream was no accident. It is a lure or a warning. We proceed with caution. The ladder ended in a low-ceilinged chamber, its air thick with the scent of earth and something sharper. Oil, perhaps. Poirot's torch revealed a cluttered space, a wooden table strewn with papers, a rusted lantern, and a pile of black robes identical to those found in the crypt. On the table lay a sketch of the chalice, annotated with Sir Edmund's spidery handwriting. Beneath the Guardian's watch, the chalice sleeps. A small iron chest sat in the corner, its lock bearing the familiar thorn pattern. Poirot tested the key from the gardener's shed. It fit perfectly. Inside the chest was no chalice, but a bundle of documents, deeds to Ashford Manor, a map marking a hidden vault beneath the crypt, and a letter signed by Sir Edmund. To my guardian, it read, you alone know the chalice's resting place. Protect it from those who seek its power. Hastings frowned, reading over Poirot's shoulder. Edmund entrusted someone, a real person, not a myth. But who? Poirot's eyes narrowed. Someone still here playing the guardian's role. The scarf, the lavender, the ruby, all are their tools. Their search was cut short by a faint scraping sound from above. Poirot doused the torch, plunging the chamber into darkness. Footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate, descending the ladder. Hastings gripped Poirot's arm, but the detective signaled for silence. A figure entered, cloaked and hooded, carrying a dim lantern. The light caught a glint of steel, a knife held low. Poirot stepped forward, his cane raised like a sword. "Enough games," he said sharply. "Reveal yourself, Guardian." The figure froze, then dropped the hood, revealing Dr. Helena Thorne. Her face was pale, her eyes blazing with defiance. "You don't understand, Poirot," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "The chalice must stay hidden. Edmund entrusted me to protect it. His notes, his secrets. I've been studying the crypt for months, guarding his legacy." Hastings gasped. "You? The screams, the robes, all that was you?" Thorne's jaw tightened. "I had to scare them away. Victor wants the chalice for money. Evelyn's too fragile to handle the truth. And Ashford, he's blind to the danger." Poirot's gaze was unyielding. "And Mr. Graves, the butler? Did your protection lead to his fate?" Thorne's knife wavered. "Graves found the vault. He threatened to sell the chalice's location to a collector. I only meant to frighten him, but he fell in the crypt, hit his head. It was an accident." Her voice broke, and the knife clattered to the floor. Poirot picked it up, his expression grim. "An accident, perhaps, but your actions have woven a web of fear. Where is the chalice?" Thorne hesitated, then pointed to the map on the table. "The vault is deeper, beneath the crypt's central chamber. Only I know the way." Poirot handed the map to Hastings. "Guard this, mon ami. We return to the crypt. Together." As they escorted Thorne back up the ladder, her shoulders slumped, the weight of her secret finally exposed. The household, alerted by the commotion, gathered in the chapel, their faces a mix of shock and suspicion as Thorne emerged, her hands bound loosely with the scarf. Lord Ashford's voice shook. "Helena, you've been behind this madness?" Evelyn sank into a pew, sobbing softly. Victor swore under his breath, while Clara and Wilkins stood frozen, their eyes wide. Poirot addressed them all. Dr. Thorne acted to protect what she believed was sacred, but her methods have cost dearly. The chalice remains, and we shall find it. Now. The group descended to the crypt, Thorne leading the way under Poirot's watchful eye. She pointed to a stone slab near the pedestal, its edges worn but unmarked. "Push there," she said. Hastings and Ashford heaved, revealing a narrow tunnel sloping downward. Poirot lit a lantern, his heart steady despite the oppressive dark. "The truth lies below," he said. "But so does the Guardian's final test." As they ventured into the tunnel, the air grew colder, the shadows thicker, and the promise of the chalice loomed like a spectre, daring Poirot to claim it before the manor's secrets claimed them all. Chapter 10. The Chalice Unveiled. The tunnel beneath Ashford Manor's crypt descended into a suffocating darkness, its walls slick with moisture and etched with ancient runes that seemed to pulse under the flickering lantern light. Hercule Poirot led the group, his steps measured, his cane tapping softly against the stone. Behind him, Captain Hastings gripped the map, his face taut with anticipation. Dr. Helena Thorne, her hands still loosely bound by the black scarf, walked in silence, her scholarly defiance replaced by resignation. Lord Ashford and Lady Evelyn followed, their faces pale, while Victor, Clara and Wilkins brought up the rear, each casting wary glances into the shadows. The air grew heavier, laced with the faint scent of lavender and something older. Decay, perhaps, or destiny. The tunnel opened into a circular chamber, its domed ceiling carved with a vast chalice encircled by thorns, the same symbol that had haunted their search. In the centre stood a stone altar, its surface worn smooth by time. Poirot's torch revealed a small recess in the altar's base, its lock bearing the thorn pattern. "The final piece," he said, producing the iron key. With a soft click, the recess opened, revealing a velvet-lined compartment. Inside lay the chalice, a golden cup, its surface etched with intricate vines and thorns, glowing faintly as if imbued with an ancient light. The group gasped, their voices mingling in awe and fear. Lady Evelyn fell to her knees, her rosary slipping to the floor. "It's real," she whispered. "Edmund was right." Victor's eyes gleamed with greed, his hand twitching as if to snatch it. Dr. Thorne's voice was hoarse. "It's a relic of the Crusades, priceless beyond measure." Poirot raised a hand for silence, his gaze sweeping the group. "The chalice is found, but its curse is human. Let us unravel the final threads of this mystery." He turned to Thorne, his voice calm but piercing. "You claimed to protect the chalice, Doctor, yet your actions led to Mr. Graves's death. But you did not act alone, did you?" Thorne's eyes widened, but before she could speak, Poirot continued. "The lavender, the fingerprints, the ruby, all pointed to you, but the scratches on the locks, the mud on the well's grate, the ring's mark in the sarcophagus, these tell another story." He turned to Wilkins, whose weathered face had gone ashen. "Monsieur Wilkins, you have served the Ashfords for decades. Did Sir Edmund name you his guardian?" Wilkins stumbled back, his broom clattering to the ground. I swore to protect it," he stammered. "Edmund found the chalice years ago, hid it here. He said it was too dangerous for the world. Kings and thieves would kill for it. I helped him build the passages, the traps. When Dr. Thorne came poking around, I used the old stories to scare her off." Poirot nodded. "And the robes, the whispers? You played the guardian's ghost," Thorne interjected, her voice sharp. "I found Edmund's notes and suspected the chalice was real. Wilkins caught me in the crypt, confessed his role. We agreed to keep it hidden, me for history, him for duty, but Graves overheard us. He wanted to sell the chalice's location." Wilkins hung his head. "I pushed him in the crypt, just to scare him. He fell, hit his head on the pedestal. I hid his body in the well, thinking it'd look like he'd left." Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone remained firm. "And the ruby, the medallion, the scarf, these were your distractions, to keep us chasing shadows." He turned to the group. Victor sought the chalice for his debts, unaware of its true hiding place. Lady Evelyn feared its curse, her nerves frayed by whispers you, Wilkins, orchestrated. Lord Ashford knew nothing, his trust in his household betrayed. "Clara, poor child, was merely frightened by your theatrics," Evelyn sobbed, clinging to Ashford. Victor cursed, kicking a stone. Clara's eyes welled with relief, while Thorne stood rigid, her scholarly pride shattered. Poirot lifted the chalice, its weight surprisingly light. "This is no holy relic," he said, examining it closely. "A fine forgery, crafted to fuel Sir Edmund's legend. The true treasure was his obsession, and your loyalty, Wilkins, preserved it." He handed the chalice to Ashford. "Keep it as a reminder, monsieur, of the cost of secrets. The police will handle Wilkins and Thorne for their roles in Graves's death, though it was unintended." Ashford nodded, his voice heavy. "Thank you, Poirot. This manor can finally rest." As they emerged into the crypt, dawn's light filtered through the manor's windows above, dispelling the shadows. Poirot confided to Hastings, "The human heart, mon ami, casts the darkest shadows. Greed, duty, fear. But truth always finds the light." Hastings smiled wearily. "You've done it again, Poirot. A case for the books." The household dispersed, their steps lighter, but their hearts heavy with the truth. The chalice, a glittering lie, sat on the manor's mantle, a silent witness to the end of its curse. As Poirot and Hastings prepared to leave, the detective paused at the door, turning to the unseen audience beyond the manor's walls. If you've enjoyed this tale of mystery and shadows, mes amis, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Until the next enigma, au revoir. The manor stood quiet at last, its secrets laid bare, as Poirot's little grey cells turned toward the next adventure.